Welcome to another episode of the Kick and Cover podcast. Today we have Wes Anderson with us. He's a special teams coordinator, wide receiver coach at New Palestine High School. I had to emphasize that there because not a single person in the Midwest pronounces it correctly. All of us call it New Palestine, not Palestine.
That's right.
For some reason. Coach, how you doing?
Doing great, Coach. Appreciate you having me today. Really excited to be here.
No problem, Coach. And like we talked before you came on, I mean, you and your boss are going to be kind of doing the clinic circuit here in a little bit between coming on here. Actually, probably by the time this airs, you've already hit the clinic circuit. You would have hit Michigan, working out the details for you guys to come to the Ohio Clinic. So, I mean, that'd be a good little thing. Now, have you been the special teams coordinator there your entire time? Actually, sorry, never mind. I'm looking at the screen there. Fourth year. Kind of, so people who don't know you, do you want to kind of give your background real quick?
Yeah, I am. This is going to be my 17th year as a football coach, coming up in 2021. Longtime offensive line coach, longtime offensive coordinator. Had the opportunity to come join Coach Ralph here at New Pal, and I'll be honest, he's got one of the best offensive line coaches in the Midwest. So, and when it comes to that, you kind of get in where you fit in, I guess. So, he had an opening for wide receiver coach, never coached wide receiver before. And then the special teams job kind of came on top of that. So, it kind of a unique perspective for me as a special teams coach. It kind of got the keys of the car, so to speak, and it was kind of do whatever you want. And I'd never done it before. So, kind of a unique opportunity to create some stuff that's maybe a little unorthodox. I think some of the things we do are a little bit unusual. But we've kind of taken our whole program philosophy and integrated that into special teams, which is kind of what I'm most proud of. I'm also, as you can see on the screen, I'm also the district's communications director, which 2020 has just been a delightful year to do that, as I'm sure you can imagine. So a lot of my day is COVID related now as a school administrator, as I'm sure it is for most of us that are watching and listening to this. So it's a little bit about me. Happily married, live in New Pal, live about 2 miles from the high school, which is really convenient for me, and happy to be a part of a great program.
No, and Coach, like I'll say this, like a lot of us have found out real quick how good our PR directors are this year. More than anything, like most of the time you will not know who that person is, or you'll see a random thing from this year. It's daily, and you're getting your money's worth now. I mean,
the old spotlight's pretty bright this year, that's for sure.
Now, how much did all the COVID and stuff affect you guys this year?
I think a lot. We carry a really small roster, a lot of years, and I won't say that's by design, but our off-season program is really hard, and we do that on purpose. So, gosh, we're a school of 1,200 kids, and I think most years we carry under 50 on our roster, 10, 12. So, from that perspective, there's not a lot of depth, and when the quarantines kind of start stacking up on you, it really crippled us. In a few instances, our kids work hard and play hard and next man up and all that stuff. But it's obviously a little bit different for us playing in the class we play in with a lot of schools that are double our enrollment, and they've got 110 kids over there to pick from, and we come into a game with 10 kids quarantined, and we've got 41.
Yeah.
So, that made it a little bit difficult. That's a battle we fight in a normal year in the playoffs in the class we play in. But in this year, I think that really starts to stack up on you a little bit.
I get you, Coach. So, all right, let's move to something a little more positive. I mean, it is the last day of 2020, so I'm going to try to focus on that.
Sure.
So when we messaged back and forth, you wanted to talk. You guys do some you classify some special stuff, some unique stuff on special teams.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of let you get into it, and then I'll kind of just ask or comment as you kind of go. And, we'll just kind of make this conversation as we go.
Sure. I'm going to kind of run through the first few slides here just for a little bit of background kind of about our program. kind of why we do what we do. Because I always think that's the most important part. I think the why really matters. So I'm just going to kind of flip through these a little bit. This is a little bit about our program. There are 6 classes in Indiana, and we're in 5A, which is the second biggest. 6A is the biggest, 1A is the smallest. We've played up a class. We're a 4A school by enrollment. We've played up a class since 2015. Indiana has a tournament success factor. So we've kind of been clipped by that, so to speak, since 2015, and we've still been successful enough to stay up. So last 7 seasons we're 88-4. This actually was an old slide. So now we're 96-6 in 8 seasons, 3 state titles, a state runner-up. And like I said, we 1,200 kids in our high school, and most years 45 kids, 50 if we're really, really lucky. I think we've had more than 50 maybe twice in the 9 years. So I always talk a little bit about our offense and our defense, because I think it's really important for a special teams coordinator to understand how those two things play into what you're going to be on specials. The more points you score, the more you're going to need kickoff, PAT. The better your defense is, the more you're going to need punt block. You're going to need you're not going to need kick return, right? Because if you give a ton of points, they don't kick off very often. So when I talk to coaches, I always tell them to have a good idea what your offense and your defense do and what that's going to do to you. So, our offense has obviously been really good. You don't go 96-6 without scoring points, obviously. So, 52 a game. We kick off a bunch. We kick a bunch of extra points. And then defensively, obviously, our defense, we're in a 3-3 stack, has been pretty good as well, 11 points. With a ton of turnovers, and on our opponents punt a whole lot. So I always show those because I'm going to put this on the screen. This is data from last year, the 3 years previous to 2020. But you can kind of get a feel for what happens to us. And I always want coaches to have this information for what it means for them, because that's going to dictate what you should do, how you should focus on your special teams. So we kick off a ton. We kick a ton of PATs and field goals. Our opponents punt a lot. And then we don't run very many kick returns. We don't punt a lot, 1.5 a game. And then our PAT field goal team is on the field just a little bit more than once a game. So for me, those top 3 teams are super important. They are our number 1 priority, and we have to be really good at those. 108 kickoffs in 15 games. I mean, we're going to kick off 8 times a night. We better be the best kickoff team in Indiana, because we're going to kick off more than anybody. We've led the state in scoring 5 out of 7 years. So if I'm not putting all my focus in kickoff, I'm hurting the team. And the opposite of that is our field goal PAT block 19 times. I'm coaching the opposite. We didn't even practice it. I put it in August. We run it one day in camp, and then I don't run it again. I do something super easy and super simple for the kids. What's the matter? I mean, we're going to give up 11 points. I'm not going to spend 5 minutes a week doing something we're going to use once in a game that we're going to win on average 52-11 or whatever it is. So it's a lot about time management and making sure you're putting your focus in the things that you're going to use the most, right?
Yeah, I heard I heard a college coach say that like 2 years ago, is if you're going to kick off a lot, you need to practice that more than 1 day a week. If you know you're going to if you know you're going to only punt 5% of the time, why are you practicing the crap out of it? It doesn't make sense for what you're doing.
Yeah. One of my big beliefs too is time is our only limited commodity, right? I mean, we can practice time is it. That's the only thing that we have that we are limited on. I can watch as much film as I want. I can scout as much as I want. I can do all that stuff all weekend, all week. I can put 100 hours in if I want, but I can only be with the kids for my 2 10-minute special teams periods on Tuesday, my 2 special teams periods on Wednesday, and then my walkthrough on Thursday. It's the only time I give the kids. So I've got to use that time efficiently, and I'm not going to waste time doing stuff that I know we're going to run once or 0 times. I'm just not going to do it. It's pointless. That's such a bad use of what limited time I already get. So kind of because of that, that's kind of the overarching structure of why we do what we do. And kind of what I want to show you today is each of these top three teams, we do something pretty unique, and I think a little bit unorthodox to suit what our kids do. And then the bottom three things are all super simple. We do the same thing every time. Simple rules, easy for our kids to understand. I don't have to spend ton of time practicing it. It's sound. It's easy for our kids, and we go and we move on. If we need a punt, I know I can trust our punt. I don't have to put 4 punts in. I don't have to put 7 protection schemes in. I've got one plan. We go out, we kick the ball, our defense comes out. It's that easy. So let me kind of get into this, which is my philosophy statement for specials, and it's really long. Everybody always like, Coach, you can't memorize that. Well, I don't need to memorize it. I just need to know what's in it. One of our philosophies about our program as a whole is that we are pedal to the metal all the time. We're not like, our motto's not all gas, no brakes, but that's kind of how I look at it in terms of what we do offensively. Up tempo, no huddle spread, inside zone. We're going to snap a football as fast as we can as soon as the official puts it down. Indiana's a 40-second play clock state, which lets us go really fast. Defensively, 3-3 stack. We blitz the absolute heck out of you. We're going to play a lot of cover 0. We're going to play a lot of cover 3. We're going to pressure you to making mistakes. And when I became a special teams coordinator, I looked at kind of what our identity was on special teams, which was almost the opposite. Let's kind of play it safe and try not to make mistakes and, let our offense go out and do what they do. But I felt like that was not congruous, I guess. Like that didn't fit. So this was really important for me to kind of bring that aggressiveness and that sense of urgency that we have on O&D and bring that into the special teams. So a couple sentences I'll highlight here. Aggressive in making plays to change momentum and field position in the game, and then give our offense short fields and defense long fields, which is going to help us win. I'm a big hidden yards guy. I believe in the hidden yards. I calculate the hidden yards. I think that matters if your defense is really good. If your defense stinks, which happens to some of us, if it does, hidden yards don't matter. You're going to give up 7 either way. Who cares how far they return the kick, right? But if your defense is really good, the longer the field you can put behind them to get to your end zone, the better it is for them. So our kickoff team, kind of one of the neatest things I think that we do, and I'll give you a little bit of history kind of about our kickoff team in a second. So we always want our opponent to start at the 20, and we've not hit that goal. We've been really close, but we've really hammered into our kids how important that field position battle is when we kick off. Our touchback rate, 20%. Listen, your mileage is going to vary on this. I don't have a kid that can kick in the end zone. I've never had one in the 5 years that I've been here. This year, we didn't have a single touchback. So your touchback rate should be relative of how good your kicker is. And if you got a kid that can kick it in the end zone every time, you probably ought to just fast forward to this part or go out or shovel some snow or something, because it ain't going to matter to you anyway. So here's what happened. 2017, which was my first year as special teams coordinator, we were so bad on this team. And I put 5 dudes on the left. I put 5 dudes on the right. We're going to run down in a straight line, and I'm going to hope that he runs into one of us. And didn't work. So after 2017, and I don't think I have the numbers in this clinic, but it was like, I think almost 40% of our opponent drives started outside the 40, which is horrible. I mean, especially when you kick off 110 times, think about all the yards that you give up when you do that. So here's kind of what we came up with. Hit the clinic circuit in the winter between 2017 and 2018. Heard some guys speak. I kind of pulled little bits and pieces from a few guys, and here's what we came up with. So our kickoff team is called the Hitman Kickoff Team. And what we do is I've got 7 dudes that are a normal kickoff team. They've got lanes. They run down lanes. They try to contain. They try to push guys, leverage, all that stuff. But then I've got 3 guys that have no alignment rules. They have no assignment. They literally run right to the football, and that's all we do. And those 3 guys are my best players. They're probably our team captains, and they are some of my smartest kids, because I obviously need them to not line up like morons, right? There's got to be a little bit of intelligence about what we're doing here. if we're kicking the ball deep left, don't go line up all the way over on the right edge, right?
Yeah.
So, and kind of explain this from the state championship game in 2019. So here you can kind of see these guys here are our normal 7 players. And I always tell those guys to line up 4 yards deep just so I give those other 3 guys the room to run. And then here's Hitman 1, here's Hitman 2, here's Hitman 3. And like I said, I don't really have any set rules for them. We talk in the scouting report about some suggestions for them, but everything we do here is really kid driven. And we come out, this is the opening kickoff of the game. This is our first kickoff of the game after we went down and scored. But when in a huddle, I want to hear from the kids. What's your plan here? What are you going to do? So I'm going to kind of walk you through every kick in this game to give you an example of kind of how things change and how things evolve and what that can do for us. So I'm going to go back to this, and this is I literally just pulled this right out of our scouting report. Our kids get this every Monday. They get every special team drawn up, exactly how we're going to run it, exactly how it gets blocked. Kids have it, they know it. And my challenge to our 3 hitmen is I give a scouting report on Monday. Our kickoff period is the first thing we do in practice on Tuesday. You better know what you're doing when you come back Tuesday at 3:15 p.m. All right, we're not going to stand there and screw around for 10 minutes while you try to figure it out. Have a plan, know what you're going to do. Let's not waste our practice time. Let's go in and execute it. So in this instance, the left guard here is one of the best players in Indiana. He's going to play in the Big Ten. Defensive lineman for Valparaiso is a really, really good player. And I generally give those hitmen kind of 2 or 3 hard, fast rules. One is don't get double team. If there's a front line double team, if the left guard and the center were to double team 5, and if one of my hitmen lines up as 5, I'm going to find a new hitman because that's just not very smart. You're taking yourself completely out of the play by getting double team. Second thing I tell them is if there's a really, 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 really good player on that other team, you should not line up as the guy who's going to get blocked by him because, again, you're taking yourself out of play. So in this instance, in the scouting report, we tell them, look, man, you better not be number 5. Let me talk about numbering real quick, too. I realize there's 1 through 7 here at the top, but I've drawn this at the bottom as a normal 1 through 10. And I realize there's 100 different ways to do that. Some guys do like the L1, L2, L3, L4, L5, R5, or whatever. As soon as L5 flips over becomes R6, my kids freak out. So we don't do it that way. We literally start on the left edge. He's 1. The guy on the right edge is 10. The kicker doesn't count in the count. Just count in. Let's go. So I realize those numbers are a little bit different.
I did the same thing,
at the bottom.
I think it's for high school athletes and kids who focus may not always be 100% as you need it to be. Yeah. I think 1 through 10 is probably the easiest system you can get.
Exactly.
It's very different for like a college kid. Okay, I have a scholarship. This is essentially my job. Like, there's a different level of focus at that level than there is here.
Yeah, excuse me. So, and I tried the L1 or whatever thing, and like I said, as soon as they put 6 guys on one side of the kicker, everybody melted down. And well, I don't have him anymore. He went to the right. Yeah, but he's the same guy. Right, but he's different. He's now R6. He's not L5 anymore, coaching. Okay, he's going to be 5. I don't care where he goes. He's still 5. If he moves the other side of the kicker, he's still the 5th guy. We've got to kind of just turn our brains off a little bit and just process this information. So, anywho, in this instance, this is the guy we want to stay away from. And so you can kind of see here, and here's a good example of kind of the numbering system. So this would be 1. This guy up here at the edge would be 10. If I can draw 0, 10. Yeah, not bad. So we told these 3 guys here, our 3 hitmen, look, man, you can't be number 5. All right, you're going to get blocked. Okay, coach, I'm going to kind of start here as 3. I'm going to kind of loop in, become 4. Perfect. Good plan. Let's go do it. But what happens, which can happen sometimes, this is the kid we're talking about right here that we want to avoid. But what can happen is they can make an adjustment, right? So he blocks us. Which, okay. I mean, their coach's coach too, which is fine. So, we we kind of squirt one out down the right there a little bit. But a couple things happen here and this is kind of where the kid-driven piece of it is. He comes over to the sideline and goes, "Coach, you blocked me, man. He wasn't supposed to block me. He was supposed to block Richie. That's who he was supposed to block, but they changed it." Well, but then this kid goes, "Hey, Coach, but nobody blocked me." So he got a free run right down there all the way to the wedge, which that's kind of what this whole thing is about. It's trying to maximize the number of free runs that we get where we get guys unblocked. Ideally, we want those to be our best players, right? Yeah. It doesn't always happen that way. But a lot of what we do from this point in the adjustments we can make, I think allows us a lot more freedom than what my counterpart on the other sideline can do in terms of them making adjustments to what we do. So we come back, kick off again, and a lot of things have changed here. Okay, so this was a kid right here that was over here. And he said, "Coach, listen, he blocked me. I'm not going to mess with him. I'm going to the other side," which he can do. He's got the freedom to do that. As long as we got 4 on one side of the kicker, we're legal. So I tell those 3 hitman guys, look, all 3 of you can be to the kicker's left. You can't all be the kicker's right or we're illegal, because we'll have 7 and 4 or 7 and 3, I guess.
Yeah.
But so whatever you guys want to do is fine. So, he says, "Listen, Coach, nobody blocked me. This is my best player. He's playing in the MAC now." And he goes, "Coach, I'm going to go right there. They're not going to block that guy. I'm going right there, and I'm going to see if they'll just let me go." Great. Love it. Love the plan. Go do it. And there we go. That's my best player right there. Completely untouched, right to the wedge. Now, this is a touchback, but you get the picture of what the adjustment is. And all we've done, their best player right here, we've confused him to the point he doesn't even block anybody. He just kind of running around here. He gets spun around. He's not really sure what to do, which is great for us. Their dude going to the Big Ten doesn't block anybody, and we kick off. Love it. That's a great plan. Let's keep doing that. So we're going to come back. You're going to see this is the next kickoff. You're going to see something similar. These are my 2 hitmen here now, kind of stacked together, which is kind of one of the neat things we can do is when those kids have the freedom, we can do some bunches or stacks, or we can align those guys however we really want, which is a huge benefit, especially if you run a man return against us. Because if you do, and your kids do what my kids do, they got to count. Well, all of a sudden I got 3 guys standing there right together. Who's 5, who's 6, who's 7? It's hard to tell, right? If you're going to block it this way, in this instance, this will be 6 and 7. You've got to find some communication system to figure out who's going to take who. Who's going to block the back guy? Who's going to back the front? These are things that your guys have to be talking about. And it took me 0 seconds. My kids had figured it out. I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to worry about it. I didn't have to coach it. I didn't have to install it. Kids go, "Coach, this is what we're going to go do. We're going to go do a nice kickoff. We're going to see how it goes." All right, buddy, go get them. So again, you can see all 3 of us are kind of our 3 hitmen here are all on that same side as the last one. It worked. So let's try it again. And again, there's my best player. Nobody blocks him. That's my second hitman, one of my other best players. Nobody blocks him either. So this is not a great example because it's a wedge return. We see a lot of wedge. I don't know about you guys are in Ohio, but almost everybody, especially now that we've gone to this, almost everybody tries to run wedge against us now. Even teams that we see on film run a man return will come in against us and play a wedge just because it's the easiest thing that their kids can do. So another touchback to that. Go ahead.
It's probably growing in popularity just because how simple it is. It's some people will give that front line as some sort of maybe a man scheme or maybe a small wedge, and then they'll have the back wedge. That's pretty much what it's growing into a lot here.
Yeah, gosh, Coach, I probably haven't seen a man return in 3 seasons. Again, a lot of those teams will come in and we'll scout them as a man return, and then we won't see it because you just can't block us.
Yeah.
Okay, so one last thing I want to note on this rep here. They have, again, made an adjustment, and now the kid that we wanted to stay away from is now blocking the guy that we thought he was going to block in the scouting report. So he comes over, and he says, "Coach, hey man, 11 blocked me. He hadn't blocked me before, but now he is." Okay, all right. Again, they're making adjustments. They're changing stuff up as we change. That's fine. So when we kick off the last time, here's pretty much the identical look that we had from the first kick of the game. And this kid that got blocked by 11 the first time is back over there, and he says, "Coach, if he's going to block the guy he's supposed to, I'm going back over there. That's where I want to go. That's where the hole is in how they block the return. If I can get him to block him, perfect. I got a free run of the ball. That's what I'm going to do." Okay. Again, kids are making decisions on this. This isn't something that I have to spend time in the game coaching. I don't have to talk about it too long in the huddle before we go out. And here it is. So we get what we thought we were going to get.
Okay.
There he is. He's able to run around the edge of the wedge with tackle to the 16-yard line. Huge play in the game. We've just taken the lead, and we bury him. We stick them deep in our own end. They end up punting to us, and we go down and score again. And after that, we're able to hold on and win a state championship. But you kind of get the feel of how this works for us, especially just giving the kids the keys of the car. And look, I can show you bad clips too. It happens. That happens anytime you let kids make those kind of decisions on the field. It's not perfect, but when it works, I think it works so well that the positives outweigh the negatives.
Yeah.
Your kid is going to have a brain fade. He's going to make a bust. He's going to go line up somewhere dumb. It's going to happen. But this is something that's really valuable. I think it's really tough to play against, and it is super easy for me. I do a lot of the brain power stuff on Tuesday in practice. By the time and Thursday in the walkthrough, by the time we get to Friday, I'm hands off on this stuff. I might need to make a suggestion, or, hey, listen, I see that they've adjusted this, or they've changed this, or, they're running the return a little bit different than what we planned for. I mean, those kind of things are going to happen in a game naturally. But this allows us to stay ahead of those adjustments, make our own adjustments without a ton of complicated install. If in a normal game, I'm kind of thinking back to when we went like 5 guys on the right, 5 guys on the left, when we were getting creamed and we're getting absolutely double team, my best players getting rammed 40 yards downfield and getting pancaked. The only thing I can really do at that point is start swapping guys, right? You go stand over there and you run in this lane. Now you go flip over there, you try to run in this lane, and you eat the double team, and that's the only adjustment I have.
Yeah.
So this has given us a lot more freedom to kind of attack people without a ton of required scout work and complicated adjustments in the game. It's really easy for our kids.
What do you like? What do you have like a goal for like your kick hang time if it's not touching back?
Yeah, I think it's 4.5. We never hit it.
Yeah,
we never hit it. I'm going to be honest. That's kind of one of the things we've just not been blessed with a lot of great kickers. Okay. I mean, this year, I think my kid can only kick it for like the 16-yard line. I mean, that's the nature of small school football, right?
Yeah.
Some years you got a kid that can boom it, and some years you don't. And the years that you don't, you've got to deal with it. So that's kind of the other part of this too. Is we know we've got to go tackle a guy. We're not kicking it in the end zone. We've got to be really good on this team. We do it 110 times, A, but B, if we kick 15% touchbacks, that's still 90 times that we've got to go run down there and tackle somebody. So that's another part of this is, listen, like I said at the beginning of this, if your dude can just kick it in the end zone all the time, you're probably still not watching anyway. So, but, I mean, it takes a lot of work, but I think it's worth it if you're one of those teams that can't get the ball in the end zone all the time.
Okay. No, that's fantastic, Coach. I think kickoff's the bane to most of us high school special teams coordinators existences. So,
yeah,
I mean especially when you again. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I haven't had a kicker that could boom out of the end zone since like my first 2 years. Like but he was also like an all national like 17 and under soccer kid. So like, does that really count? No. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, the other thing too I'll mention about kickoff is I treat kickoff like a defensive play. And the way that I talk to the kids is using the same terminology that our defensive coaches use. So I coach offensive position. I coach wide receivers. We do, we're not two platoons, so we do both offense and defense every day. We do special teams, O period, special teams, D period, go home. So I don't coach a defensive position. So I spend a lot of my time in those defensive drills, listening to what we call drills, listening to the terminology we use, because it's all the same stuff, right? You got to run downfield. You've got to shed a block, and you've got to go make a tackle. I mean, that's just the same thing as my middle linebacker having to shed a double team, a zone double team, and get in the backfield and go tackle a running back. So I'm going to use those same terms. That's another thing. Coach asked me all the time, Coach, what kind of drills do you do for this? Man, I got time for drills. I get 20 minutes a week, and I do 5 of the 6 because I'm going to do PAT block, but I got to do 5 specials in 20 minutes. Yeah. So whatever I can do to take drills that we already do, terms that we already use, game situations that our kids already understand, and our DBs understand trap tackle. They understand, using the sideline to push a guy out of bounds. They understand leverage. They understand outside hip. They understand all that stuff. I need to use that when I coach us during our kickoff period. I don't have time to spend 5 minutes doing a specific drill to teach them something that we already do, and our kids already have to understand to play defense. Yeah. So that's been a big thing for me too, is using some of those defense terms, using some of those reference that defense drill in a bad rep. We get a returner that splits 2 of us. We're in a great position. He splits both of us, and we give a 40-yard return in practice. Go, hey guys, that's tackle trap or trap tackle drill. Get yourselves together, get hip to hip, pin that guy in, make a tackle. And it's a drill we already do. You know that drill. Let's apply it in this situation. It's an open field tackle, right? And our defense spends so much time working on open field tackling. I don't need to re-drill it, if that makes sense.
Well, it does. It does, and I get it. I mean, technically it's the third phase of the game, but you don't always get the necessary time. I'm not gonna sit here and say you need the same amount of time as offense and defense, but some of us get really shortchanged on time, and it is what it is. So.
Yeah, and that at the same time, that kind of goes back to what I talked about in our philosophy too. I want things that are easy for us and inexpensive for us from a time perspective, things I can do easily, things I can coach easily, but that are also very expensive for our opponents to prepare for.
Yeah.
So if I can use as little time as I can in practice to prepare, but still have us ready to play, while you have to double or triple your specials time when you play the Dragons, that's good for us. You're spending less time working on defeating zone double teams. You're spending less time preparing for the 27 blitzes we run because you're worried about how good your kick return is going to be when we're going to kick off to you 7 or 8 times. You're worried about our punt block team because you've got to get a punt off. Those things matter too. So I think that's a big part that I've really applied to my philosophy. How can I do this cheaply from a time perspective while getting so much value out of it that it makes you spend extra time?
Yeah.
So that's kickoff. I'd love to talk about punt block here. I certainly won't spend as much time on that because that's pretty straightforward. Yeah. And then I also kind of want to talk about our PAT.
So, Coach.
Okay, so our punt block team, we are a full-time punt block team. And I say full-time, I don't mean 100.0% chance that we're going to run a punt block. I mean, we are going to run a punt block unless I feel that it is a obvious situation where you're going to need to run a fake. I talk a lot, and obviously we're on TV quite a bit, and people watch us, and I go on the clinic circuit, and I just hammer aggressive. And then you watch us play, and there's 30 seconds left in the half. Our opponent is punting from our 40 on 4th and 2, and we're playing our base defense. And then old coach's phone rings on Saturday morning after the game. Like, Coach, man, how come you blocking those punts, man? I saw it on the clinic circuit. Look, there's a difference between aggressive and reckless, right? And I think we can all agree when you do this, you've got to kind of find where that line is.
Yeah.
And I think I've actually got a slide in here about it.
We have a very similar philosophy, Coach, on that about Like we're pretty much
Yeah.
punt block 100% of the time, unless.
Right. So I talk about aggressive versus reckless. We want to make plays that change the balance of the game in our favor. We want to find vulnerabilities in what you do, scheme, talent, execution-wise. But I also don't want to give up a touchdown with 30 seconds left in the half because I'm a moron and I try to block a punt and you run wide pop or a whatever yard line you're on touchdown because there's nobody back there. I mean, I want to be aggressive too, but I also like being employed. So I'm not going to do a bunch of dumb stuff that's going to give a bunch of points and get myself fired. So, it's about, I said this, change the game in one play. I say that a lot. I think a lot of special teams guys kind of use that mantra for specials. But what I don't want to do is change the game in one play for them. I want to change it in our favor. If I do something in special that changes the balance of the game to them, I failed. So, yes, with 30 seconds left, it's 4th and 2 at our 41-yard line, and they line up to punt. No, I'm not going to block it. I'm probably not going to put a returner back there, if I'm honest, just because I want to minimize those number of mistakes. And I'll give you an example. So here's a punt block. You can't even see the chain here. I think it's 4th and 12 or 4th and 13. The personal protector in this case wears a 50 number. The punter back here is I watched him kick in warmups, and he was not going to run anywhere. So I know, my risk here is pretty low, and the reward's pretty high. And we're going to block this and return for a touchdown. I'll show that clip in a second. But here's the other side of that coin. The state championship in 2018, this is one of the most mobile rushing quarterbacks in the state of Indiana. He's going to quick kick this ball from empty with this kid who's in the Big Ten, this kid who's in the MAC, this kid who's in the NAIA. If I line up and run a full block look against this, I'm the moron.
Yeah.
And it's 4th and 2. I get like it's our minus 27 yard or their minus 27. I get that, but I'm not going to let them run quarterback buck sweep here, which is their favorite play, and us get outflanked and we give up a 40-yard rush and their offense comes back out there. I want to block kicks. I want to do that stuff, but at the same time, I also want to make sure our offense comes out. When you've got a weapon in your pocket that scores 52 points a game, the last thing you should do is not use that weapon and, leave it in the holster while you give up a fake punt for 100 yards. So I always talk about that. I think it's an important distinction to make because I realize I talk about aggressiveness and all that stuff, and then people will watch us and go, now, hang on a second, because that's not what you said. So
I get it, but again, that's where we got people have to be aware of the situation and what's going on, right. And kind of like you said there, you knew that punter wasn't going to run anywhere, and their personal protector wears a 50. It's a fairly safe bet at that point to go for the block compared to that obnoxious deep shotgun quick kick look.
9-yard quick kick.
Yeah, the 9-yard quick kick, which in theory you probably could. I mean, you can block it, but the problem is the risk is not always worth the reward, especially as you point out, Big Ten, MAC, NAIA. That's called athletes, and I mean, that's a problem.
Yeah. So that one I showed, we didn't even run a returner the whole game, not one. I put all 11 guys up there. We're gonna play defense because they're an empty.
Yeah.
And we're going to play our normal empty rules. We're going to play our normal empty checks. And if you kick it 35 yards and it rolls another 17 yards for a 52-yard punt, fine. I'm okay to come out and play offense from 1st and 10 after a 50-yard field position change. It's not ideal, but at least we're at 1st and 10 for us and not 1st and 10 for them, which is what we want.
Yeah.
So I'll talk a little bit about kind of what we're looking for on punt block. So obviously, when you run punt block, you want to block kicks. Everybody does. We're never going to block them all. I think we're about 12% failure rate in terms of our opponent not completing a kick when they punt, which is pretty good, but that's still, 82% of the time, 88% of the time that they get a kick away. So that's a massive, massive percentage. So we also talk about disruptions, and that's still something bad that happened for them. It's a bad snap that he's got to go chase somewhere. a kick of less than 20, a return of more than 20, or they call timeout. And I realize some of those are worse than others, right? I mean, okay, you call timeout, fine. I mean, it's not huge, but it can matter. So we talk about that. I'll show you this. I think this is the most important bit right here in what we do. We play the same teams every year. Everybody does, right? I mean, you got your conference schedule. Maybe you change your non-conference. For us, we see mostly the same teams in the playoffs every year. In the 4 years we've done this, we've knocked off over 0.3 of a second off our opponent operation time, which is huge. And that goes back to what I talked about a second ago. Clearly, our opponents are working on that. They know the last thing that can happen is they block one of our punts.
Yeah.
If they block one of our punts, we're buried. We're dead. So they're spending time making sure they can get the ball away and not spending time on preparing for what we do in the other phases. So I think there's value in that. So I'll show you a couple clips here. This is against Center Grove. Those of you guys in the Midwest know who Center Grove is. They won the state title in 6A this year in 2020. This game's from 2018. Big game at our place, and we just run a little beamer ball corner blitz right there, tackle the punter. A lot of what I do in how we block kicks is scheme related. I'll be honest, I can't really remember a block where we just flat win a one-on-one here and go block a kick. It just doesn't happen very often. What does happen is we put our kids in a position to succeed based on the scheme that they run and get a guy through completely unblocked. That's the key to punt block. You know, it's not just line a guy up in every gap and hope you win. That's what we do on PAT block because I don't care. But in punt block, it's so much more about the scheme and understanding what they do, why they do it. And I'll kind of give you an example of what I'm looking for in this instance. So what we figured out, and, you know, pro-style teams that punt from pro-style punt have a handful of things that protection schemes that they can use. In this instance, they're basically going to half slide it to the overload side.
Yeah. And
then, you know, they're going to kind of go man backside, and this guy's just kind of fill this A gap as a threat. But how it works is the protector, will call the slide to the overload.
Yeah.
So he's going to count whichever side has more, we're going to slide it that way. So I said, okay, well, if he's going to slide it that way, I need to put 5 guys over here to get him to slide it that way, because I felt like if I ran this corner blitz at him, if he was set over here, that he was going to get us. He could peel for that corner coming and get us. So I said, I have to set the overload into the boundary. And ideally, we went into the game knowing we wanted to run this from our sideline, from our hash. Doesn't always work that way. In this instance, we got lucky and we got the situation where we got it on or near our hash, because I didn't want this stuff here, all this demeanor from him to happen right in front of their coaches, right? Because he's kind of cheating. He's clearly watching the punter. Here we come, right? I didn't want that to happen in front of their coaches, who are really good. Obviously, Center Grove's one of the best in the Midwest anywhere. So I knew I kind of had to hide this on our sideline. So I send the overload over there. And again, he's kind of responsible for this over here. He's late to arrive to try to get to us, and we're able to block, or we're able to tackle a punter.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of what goes into this. And again, like I said, it's not about, well, you know, I've got this kid here who's at Michigan State, and you've got this kid here. Look, we're talking 2.2 seconds. I ain't got time to win. I ain't got time to put a pass rush move on, win, still get to the block point. I've got to get guys through there freely. So that's a lot of kind of how we orchestrate those punt blocks. Here's another one. I got the tight on this one. He's going to drop this snap, which helps us. I think we probably block it anyway. Yeah. There's a rivalry game at our place. And this is kind of one of those best laid plan situations. This is my backup nose guard in here.
Yeah.
My starting nose guard had come out with a helmet, and this kid he's actually legally blind. Like, he literally physically cannot see. Like Like, I'm not joking. He is legitimately, actually legally blind. But what we saw, you know, I always want to know what this guy does. I want to know what his rules are, and I want to know what his rules are. And a lot of teams, doesn't happen to us a lot anymore, but it used to. A lot of teams, they don't even have a rule for him. He's just going down here. He's just leaving. I'm just going to take off and go try to tackle that guy, which is fine. Though in this instance, I knew that he always went this way.
Yeah.
So I set a 1 technique here in the into the field basically, and then I put a 3 technique here into the boundary because I know he's going to come all the way out here and fan for this. And again, this is kind of the best laid plans thing. If I have a starting nose guard in there, this probably goes a lot easier. He kind of gets chipped a little bit, but you know they're never really going to get to him. Drop punt, 1 yard line, we fall on it. Next play, that's their first offensive series of the game. We go down, score to start the game, kick it off to them. We get a fumble on the 1. We go in and score. It's 14-0. We played a minute and 10 seconds. And let's be honest, Coach, at that point, the game is all but over. So that's another big play for us. Here's another one. I always really like when opponents punt with little guys.
Yeah.
You know, we got big, strong kids. Our kids are great weight room kids. And, you know, that little dude is not going to block my guy wearing 79. He's just not going to block him. So, you know, we're able to get through there cleanly, get a block, get a fumble, get a touchdown. I have a full punt block clinic where I kind of walk through all these different kinds of punts and how we attack them and what I'm looking for. If anybody's watching and wants that, just let me know. Send me an email, send me a Twitter DM or whatever. I'm happy to share anything, any film, anything you guys want anytime. We're an open book program. I always tell people, you know, I got no system to sell. Whatever you want is going to cost you $0.00. So feel free to reach out anytime. Here's kind of one of those semi-tight shield punts. I don't think I have a tight of that one. I don't. But again, this is another one where we kind of pick on the snapper here who doesn't really do anything. And we end up right down Main Street for a block. There's an unhappy coach when you don't work the scoop and score rules like you're practiced. That's a touchdown off the board. Another one, same game from the one before, the same year, and the same team I talked about with the little guys. You know, I'm just going to put my defensive end there, and he's bigger, stronger. That's a win for us. So I want to talk for a second about fakes, and I want to talk about disruption because the question I get asked, Coach, you got to get a ton of fakes run on you, right? Not really. We've had 4 and 5 seasons. None of them have been converted. And I think part of that, too, is, gosh, I don't know if we're going to have time to get a fake off. You know, we know they're going to be there in 2.2. Can I run a route? Can I block well enough? It really hasn't happened. And I'll actually show you the 4 fakes that we've run that have had run against us. This will be a little tight end delay screen here.
Well, Coach, the one thing I've kind of figured out, like in the 2 years of doing this, is kind of, you're right. Like, I think it dissuades them from doing it. Like,
I think so.
I 100%, because I haven't seen one in 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I practice, and we look at a couple of them when I get time, but because we see some on film here and there, but another teams, nope, I haven't seen one in 2 years.
The weird thing is, of the 4 that we've seen, 3 have come in a game after we blocked a kick. Okay. One team, and I'll show it to you here in a second, one team ran a designed fake punt just to run it. So this is the same team. I've already showed you 2 blocks in this game.
Yeah.
You know, and they're going, look, we can't do anything. We got to try something. So we're going to run this. We're going to intercept it. We're going to run it back for a touchdown. And that puts us up 21-0 early in the second quarter. But again, we scored twice. The 2 we scored, one was we picked up a fumble in the end zone for a touchdown, and the other one was we fell on the 2-yard line. So we scored twice. Our offense hasn't actually generated anything in the first quarter. But we've now put 3 scores on the board, all because of special team. 2 block punts, one's for a touchdown. We ran intercept a fake punt. We returned for a touchdown. It's 21-0. And again, let's be honest, the game's probably over. And this was a terrible night. It was 40 degrees, pouring down rain. We couldn't throw the ball. They knew we couldn't throw the ball. They were an air raid team. They definitely couldn't throw the ball. So in those conditions, these special teams plays make a huge difference, right? Here's one from playoff game this year. This is actually unbalanced. So tackle's eligible. And this is one of those teams we knew they punt from tackle eligible all the time from unbalanced. This is basically the right tackle that's covered. And they're going to run a little tackle pop here. And again, this is what I'm talking about. Look, we're in our base defense here. I'm not running full block. This is late in the game. We're actually down here. We're down 7 with about a minute 10 to go. Or no, we're down 3 with a minute 10 to go. We get the stop, and they elect to do this instead of it's 4th and 4. So this was their choice. Instead of running offensive play, we're going to try to run this little tackle pop. But again, like I'm talking about, this is a situation where we're going to play our base defense. If I try to run a full block here, we're hosed. They're going to run tackle pop. There's not going to be anybody there. My linebacker does a really nice job of getting in there and deflecting that ball. Our offense comes out. We go down, score, win a playoff game, go on a sectional championship. So this is the one. That's the one fake. We not blocked the kick in this game, but this is the one design fake that they had drawn up and ran. And that's honestly the only one we've seen in 5 years that is based solely on we want to run a fake in the situation and not, I'm scared we're going to get kick blocked. Here's another one. That's obviously not what you're looking for. We would have had that tackled even if he caught it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it. This is the last one here where we had blocked the first kick in this game. I showed it to you a second ago, and they just kind of try to get this punter to the edge, and we tackle him for a loss. So that's it. Those are the 4 fakes that have been run against us in 60 punts a year for about 100 and 200 punts roughly.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah. So, and then the last thing, like I said, I want to talk about are the disruptions because I think they're really important. Like I said, 12% of all kicks not completed, have not got the kick away, which leaves a lot, 88% that are kicked. So how can we affect the game in those 88%? The thing I'll tell you, I kind of talked about what those 4 criteria are for disruptions. We're averaging 1.3 of those a game. That's 33% of all of our opponent kicks. Something bad happens to them, which again is where I think the value comes in. This is something that's easy for our kids to understand. I give them the diagram, what the block is for the week. Most weeks we literally only run 1. I'm not going to put 4 blocks in. I might run a second one like that corner blitz in a special situation. It takes me 2 minutes to install it. I'm going to rep it 4 or 5 times in practice. We're going to go take it in the game. You have got to make sure that you get a kick away against this. You're going to spend a lot more than 2 or 3 minutes on it than I did, which I think is huge. So there's that. Last thing I want to talk about is our PAT because I think this is kind of one of the coolest things we do, Coach. And then I'm going to get out of here. Actually, I'm just going to show you this. So this is our PAT formation, and
I would
look at it. So I'll give you a little bit of background on this. 2018 was state championship year for us, and I ran PAT the same way everybody else did. Tackle, wing, block your inside gap, whatever. The problem that we had, and again, we do this a ton, 110 times a year, was that we were starting to get a bunch of really exotic stuff. And, let's be honest, in a 35-0 or a 35-7 game, I'm not going to call a fake.
Yeah.
Right? We've got 2 guys inside the C gap against us, and we've got 9 guys D gap and wider. Look, there's no rules for that. The solution is to run a fake, but I'm not going to do that. I'm obviously not going to dial one up in that situation when we're already ahead. The clock's running. We're in a running clock situation, and we're not that kind of program. So we playing a worst team on our schedule. We had 3 PATs blocked in the game. And this is mid-season in 2018. We knew we were really good, knew we were state championship contender. And that's kind of one of those situations where you go home and Coach, you drink about 19 beers and you feel sorry for yourself. And I think that's kind of when the inspiration strikes, right? So we're a shield punt team. I'm 3-man shield. And everybody knows, like I said, it's really simple. It's what we do for our kids so they understand it. So in the middle of kind of sitting in the dark and feeling sorry for myself, I kind of had the thought to say, why can't we be a shield PAT team? It works for punt. We can protect the block. We can protect the punter. Why can't we do that on extra point? So here's kind of what we came up with. I basically just moved my wings back and built a two-man shield in front of the block. And I'll kind of run through my rules here because, again, the issue, and this is kind of a good example of that, like there's 1.5 guys inside the C gap here, and there's 9 other guys that we've got to account for. So what I wanted to do when we did this was I wanted to take these guys out of the equation, because that's where a lot of our blocks were coming from, was the last guy on the edge. We couldn't get to it. It was too wide. Putting a second guy out there and kind of trying to pin my wing down and then try to get that guy off the edge. I mean, there were twists and slants and all this crazy stuff that we had to avoid. So I said, look, if we're going to do this, we have got to get those 2 edge guys can't block the kick, right? Those have to be the guys that we have to account for. So here's how we're going to align. We're going to go with our outside foot on the 8-yard line or 5 yards behind the ball if you're kicking a field goal. And then I'm going to tell this guy, you have to find the widest guy that you believe can block the kick. Okay? Maybe it's him. Maybe it's not him. In this instance, he doesn't pick him. He picks him. He thinks this kid's too wide. So what he'll do is he'll put his outside foot on a straight line from the kicking block to his number. So this dude can't block the kick. There's no way. We've taken that away by alignment.
Yeah.
So now my tight ends, which you can kind of see this I kind of call it like an NFL offensive tackle stance, right? It's 3rd and 14 in the NFL. That's what you're going to get. Because what I want to avoid is this. That's really the only place we're vulnerable on this. And by doing this, I've made the loop too long. So he can't run through there. He's too late, A. And B, the ball's too high. He can't block it from the butt of the center, basically. He's got to get deeper in here if he's going to block this kick. So same rules inside, block inside gap. I will note there's one. We're going to screw this one up, but we do have a rule here for our tackles where they can make a fan call. If they don't have a B gap threat, they can fan of the C gap and kind of push everybody out of gap. So what happens here, there's a lot of communication between these 3 guys because, again, we see 100 different things. So, tackle can go, look, I got nobody inside fan, so now I'm going to fan for this guy. Tight end knows, okay, he's going to take the guy in the inside gap. I can go to the outside gap now, which means I take this guy, and then the wing always takes the first unblocked guy inside. So our wing's going to take him. We don't think he can block it. We think he's too wide. We're going to leave him alone. There you go. In that instance, that one guy backs off. This guy backs off. So I don't have to worry about him. But we had him blocked. He belonged to the wing in the event that he came.
Yeah.
You can kind of get a better look at it on the other side down here because we don't have a fan call down here. The tight ends or the tackle's going to take him. Tight end's going to take him. Wing knows I got 2. I have to take the first guy inside, so the wing's going to take him. We've taken his block away by alignment, but he's technically unblocked. We don't have a guy for him. But we believe that he can't run around us and get to the block like that, basically. Same game, another one. Here we get the fan call right. 54 doesn't have a guy inside him. This guy's head up on 75. So 54 fans. We actually do still screw it up. The tight end screws it up. Tight end should have blocked him, which leaves a wing for him. Now the wing's got 3 guys running at him, and he's kind of got to make the most of it. There's a good example. That guy's unblocked, but he's still late. He's still too high. Or the ball's too high. Another look at it. Here's another example of what I'm talking about. There's 3 guys in here. But our rules, this one's from 2020. Our rules kind of have to sort this out. This should be the wings guy, probably. Yep. And you see that edge guy can't make that block. He's too wide. So it's really worked for us. I'll be honest, we've had 2 blocked in the 3 years we've done this, but those were offensive line protection issues that our offensive line coach solved on his own without having to get the old special teams coordinator involved, which is what we like. I always appreciate not having to fire offensive linemen. That's always one of my. See, and even then, old 63 here, who's my wing in this instance, doesn't do a great job here. He just kind of lets this guy fall off, but it's still good enough. As long as your snapper's good, we're looking for 1.8 snap to kick. We've made that a couple years. We've not made it a couple years based on who my snapper is, and made a couple of changes at snapper mid-year, et cetera. When your snapper's good, that's the best weapon you have on field goal and PAT. But when you don't, you've still got to have a plan. Yeah. So that's kind of part of what we do. I think it's really unique. I'll be honest, I'm kind of proud of it because it's kind of one of those things I invented myself. It's not, let's go to the clinic and, check this thing out. I'm going to rip this off and I'm going to start selling it. First of all, I don't sell anything, but I think this is a really unique way to make sure that you're sound all the way around on PAT. And it takes a lot of the guesswork out, and it takes a lot of the weird rules that your tight ends and wings have and a lot of that stuff. This is simple for our kids. Again, like I said, it's another thing that's real easy for our kids to understand. The rules are simple. The rules are straightforward. We're going to win it with scheme and give our kids easy rules to go out and game and do. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's some good stuff, Coach. And I thank you for coming on and talking about how to be different. That's a very unique field goal PAT formation. And, it's got my wheels churning in my head. Like I said, we have very similar philosophy punt block wise. And then, like I said, the dreaded kickoff is something I'm always looking to improve. So there's some good ideas there. Coach's contact, for those of you who watched, the coach's contact information was at the beginning. It will also be it's on the screen again right now. It's also in the bio, especially for those of you that are listening on Anchor, Spotify, or any of the other apps. His contact information will be in the bio. Remember, if you want to go listen back to any of this, there are video tags in both the podcast and the YouTube video. That way, if there's ever a specific spot you want to go back to, please like, subscribe, and then reach out to Coach if you need anything. They run a very good program over there at New Palestine. And then that was another episode of the Kick and Cover podcast.